Welcome to the Jerome McClain Show. I'm your host, Jerome McClain, and let's get into our episode.
Intelligentsia, the endem of sarcasm, the nutty professor, to your whack-ass marmalade. It's T-Bone from T-Bone and Chick Brew in the Morning. Now available in podcast format. Simply search for the T-Bone and Chick Brew podcast, available wherever fine podcasts are sold.
Welcome to the Jerome McClain Show. I'm your host, Jerome McClain, independent media that won't reinforce tribalism. We have one planet. Nobody is leaving, so let us reason together. If you have not been paying attention, like I kind of took off paying attention this week because I was getting ready for a competition, then you miss some very pivotal things. One of them was the fact that a lot of the victims from the Epstein scandal and Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Thomas Massie, and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, along with the victims, all stood with the victims, the right thing to do, and said this. I'm going to go right to the press conference, and we'll meet on the other side.
Today is the first day of real reckoning for the Epstein class. We're here to stand with forgotten and abandoned Americans against an Epstein class that had no regard for the rules or the laws. Look, this is one of the most horrific and disgusting corruption scandals in our country's history. You had Jeffrey Epstein, who literally set up an island of rape, a rape island. And you had rich and powerful men, some of the richest people in the world, who thought that they could hang out with bankers, buy off politicians, and abuse and rape America's girls with no consequence. Because survivors spoke up, because of their courage, the truth is finally going to come out. And when it comes out, this country is really going to have a moral reckoning. How did we allow this to happen? There should be no buildings named after people in this Epstein class. There should be no scholarships named after them. They shouldn't be enjoying the perks of being affiliated with corporations or universities or writing op-eds or being lionized. And many of the survivors will tell you some of these people still are celebrated in our society. That's disgusting. There needs to be accountability. I want to recognize first and foremost the survivors. They are the ones who made today possible. Many of you had forgotten about this issue, and frankly, for decades, we have not done enough about this issue. And it's only because of their advocacy, them coming here to the Capitol. They showed up here time and again, and on September 3rd, that the country started to pay attention. And I also want to thank the courage of two of my colleagues in particular. Both of them have suffered, as you know, extraordinary political consequences for what they did. One, my colleague, Congressman Thomas Massie. This would not have been possible if he hadn't led the discharge petition that got 218 signatures and is going to force a vote in the House of Representatives. And this would not have certainly been possible if it were not for the courage of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She signed the petition, and I would keep texting Thomas, is she going to drop off? Is she going to drop off? Because there was so much pressure against her, so much attacks against her.
Oh, trust me, we will be coming back to that big time. And I also am going to address some what I think of politically falsehoods, like schemy little lawyer talk that just happened here as well.
But she stood with the survivors. For Thomas or me, this has never been political. This is not about questions of Trump or Biden. This is a question of doing the right thing for survivors. We're going to get a vote today. I expect an overwhelming vote in the House of Representatives, and I don't want the DC swamp playing any games. They need to pass this in the Senate, and they should not amend it. President Trump has said he would sign the Epstein Transparency Act. It's going to get overwhelming support in the House. It should go straight to the Senate, and it should be signed. No amendments, no adding loopholes. Justice is long overdue. And I want to hand it over to my colleague, Representative Thomas Massie.
So look, I'm just going to say this because I'll have a lot more to say on the other side of the break or whatever, is this. This was pretty obvious to anybody who knows the system. The reason why this Epstein stuff, everybody knew about it and they weren't doing anything about it, is because Epstein was connected to everyone, period. He hit Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians. He hit congressmen, senators, college professors, deans, treasury secretaries, everyone, intelligence officials, everybody had some level of culpability. And it does not have to be the you did something wrong yourself in particular. It is just simply that you saw something being done wrong and you know that you did not do anything to stop it. And if you did not do anything to stop it, you did nothing to report it. And after Mr. Epstein was convicted and to be a known pedophile, so this is not anything that's incontrovertible at the time, or I'm sorry, it is not anything that is controversial, going to have any controversy around it. Look at the list of people that are still talking to him and listen to what they said. People like Bill Gates asking him for financial advice and relationship advice. Now, Bill Gates is one of the richest people on the planet, one of the most intelligent people on the planet. You think he can't find a financial advice from a person that's anybody else on the planet that's not a pedophile? You think Bill Gates can't find that person? Relationship advice. You think Bill Gates, one of the richest people on the planet, can't find anybody to give him relationship advice that is not a convicted pedophile? There's one. Now, keep going. Larry Summers, former president of Harvard, former Treasury Secretary under the Obama administration. What does he have to talk to Epstein about? Well, in those emails, it says it pretty clearly. And we're gonna let this play out. This list did not come out is because very powerful people were on it. There were so many billionaires on this list, so many powerful people that everybody had a gentleman's agreement and a female's agreement, a gentlewoman's agreement, or our gentle ladies agreement that no. This will never see the light of day. That is the actual truth. Too many people were being hit. It hit everybody across party lines. It hit everybody across economic lines. It was all about people in elite society. As I said on the previous episode, Big Club, you're not in it.
I want to start by thanking the survivors. I mean, they're giving everybody hope in this country. There are survivors of other sex crimes in this country wondering if they should come forward. They're clouded with shame and concerned that law enforcement will do nothing. And these survivors have stepped forth, taking that same risk, worried that they will be defamed themselves. They have been defamed for stepping forward. But we're going to get justice for them. That's going to happen today in the People's House. The founders set up our government with 3 branches and 2 branches of Congress. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this fight is being started and it's being won in the House of Representatives. I have people, other survivors of other sex crimes, who come to me and say, thank you. You give me hope. You give us hope. There is hope here. We fought the president, the attorney general, the FBI director, the Speaker of the House, and the vice president to get this win. But they're on our side today, though. So let's give them some credit as well. They are finally on the side of justice. And as Rose said, don't muck it up in the Senate. Don't get too cute. We're all paying attention. If you want to add some additional protections for these survivors, go for it. But if you do anything that prevents any disclosure, you are not for the people and you are not part of this effort. Do not muck it up in the Senate. So with that, I just want to say I am hopeful too. I didn't know that we would succeed when Roe and I started this effort. Most discharge petitions never make it, maybe only 4%. So we had long odds. But we had some brave women on the Republican side. My colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of them who's here with us today. You cannot even imagine the consequences that they have suffered. My colleague Lauren Boebert and my colleague Nancy Mace, they stood so strong. They put their names on a document in here, and then they were pressured in ways that you cannot even imagine. And they stood strong. And that's why we're here today. And they didn't take us seriously over at the executive branch or in the Senate because they always thought they could flip one of these women. They could convince them or cajole them or intimidate them into taking their names off of this petition. But they did not succeed. This is a victory for those women and women all over the country today, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. With that, I want to introduce my colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Ro. I woke up this morning and I turned to my weather app to check the temperature, and it was 32 degrees. And my first thought was, hell has froze over. I want to speak goodness and love and hope into the women standing behind me and all of the other survivors whose names you don't even know, but stand with these women. They are survivors, and they are strong, and they are courageous, and they are daughters of God. They are not victims. These women have fought the most horrific fight that no woman should have to fight, and they did it by banding together and never giving up. And that's what we did by fighting so hard against the most powerful people in the world, even the President of the United States, in order to make this vote happen today. I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. And I want to tell you that this only became possible today because the American people, whom we serve as representatives here in Congress, demanded that this vote happen, and they put more pressure on every single elected politician in this city than has ever been put on them. And today you are going to see probably a unanimous vote in the House to release the Epstein files, but the real fight will happen after that. While I want to see every single name released so that these women don't have to live in fear and intimidation, which is something I've had a small taste of in just the past few days, just a small taste. They've been living it for years. But the real test will be, will the Department of Justice release the files? Or will it all remain tied up in investigations? Will the CIA release the files? Will a judge in New York release the information? That's information that needs to come out. And will the list of names that these women privately hold, and they hold it because of their fear in their heart of what would happen to them if they release it on their own, will that list of names come out? That's the real test. So I want to thank Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna for your bravery in doing something that is much needed in America, crossing the political aisle that has become bigger than the Grand Canyon in America. But these men crossed that aisle on behalf of these women. And that is more of what is needed today in America than ever in our history. So thank you so much. Who's next? Ro, I'll let you introduce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Has anybody ever told you you were over opinionated? How about this one? You can talk about everything you like, but don't talk about religion. Don't talk about faith. Don't talk about politics. My name is Jerome McClain, host of Jerome McClain Show, and I want to introduce you to a show called Over Opinionated with my friend from Southwest Virginia, Josh Scott. Josh has always been told he has been over opinionated. He always tried to hold back these opinions, but he tried to back them up when he had to say something with facts and logic. Since he's grown up in many ways, he had to change a lot of his views and his opinions, as a lot of people should. He's not a millionaire from Fox News or CNN. He's just a hard-working, blue-collar type of guy. Give Josh Scott a shot at Over Opinionated with Josh Scott. You can find him on patreon.com/overopinionated at 679. You can also check him out on Twitter at NRV_guy79. Over Opinionated with Josh Scott, where he is this soft-spoken guy telling you the truth.
We talk about a lot of serious topics on this show. One very serious topic is women's health. One company that stood out to me was vslay.com, because the owner is very transparent about her own struggles in the women's health department and has great customer service, great deals, and frequent sales. You can check her out, her great customer service, products about women's health, and frequent sales at www.vslay.com. That is www.vslay.com.
I'm sorry that she resigned. I think that she's a thoughtful person. For sure, she could have stayed in this district and been reelected many, many, many times over.
I also think she was focused on things that she thought would get her ahead. And when that suddenly stopped, that was the end of that conversation.
There are plenty of opinions about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but there is still disbelief hanging in the air here in her hometown of Rome, Georgia. Of course, after her bombshell decision late last week that she is not going to serve out her congressional term. I mean, people here were just getting used to the idea that her feud with President Trump was ongoing. That was shocking enough. But when she said that she would not serve out her term, it really sent people into questioning why.
I understand what she's saying about the level of vitriol that's occurred in Washington.
I disagreed with a lot of the stuff she did early on in Congress. I applaud her for breaking away from the pack, because that's a really hard thing to do in politics. Shows bravery on her part, but at the same time, there's a little bit of self-preservation going on too, I think.
Right.
You know, if you see that the house is falling down,
Right.
You might want to get a new house.
The Charlie Kirk assassination, that had a profound impact on her. She's had to take a lot of threats that have come through. I mean, her house has been swatted many times, and she's very protective of her family.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has about a month and a couple weeks left of serving in Congress. A rising star, an outspoken critic of so many, she's leaving now her party in a bit of a lurch, because that narrow Republican majority is just getting a bit narrower.
I'm going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest, as I always have, and I look forward to a new path ahead. I'll be resigning from office with my last day being January 5th, 2026. My voting record has been solidly with my party and the president. Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job title is literally representative. America first should mean America first and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America first in our halls of government. Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for.
No, not my fault. No, we'd like to get to peace. It should have happened a long time ago. The Ukraine war with Russia should have never happened. If I were president, it never would have happened. We're trying to get it ended. One way or the other, we have to get it ended.
Are you willing to forgive Congresswoman Taylor Greene?
Forgive for what? No, I just disagreed with her philosophy. She started backing perhaps the worst Republican congressman in our history, this stupid person named Mattis. And I said, go your own way. And once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived a primary. But I think she's a nice person.
Do you still plan to deploy the National Guard to New York City?
If they need it. Right now, other places need it more, but if they need it, we had a very good meeting yesterday. We talked about that. But if they need it, I would do it.
All right, guys. So, look. So let me get into some of this analysis here. And there are moments in politics when truth doesn't walk through the front door. It breaks through like a burglar. And when the Epstein files happen to have resurfaced, that's exactly what happened. The political establishment in the United States didn't just flinch, it seized up. Old alliances stiffened. Carefully crafted narratives cracked, and suddenly people who once screamed in unison found themselves whispering in the corners of the room. But no split has been more revealing or more spectacular than the fracture between President Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene. For years, Marjorie Taylor Greene was Trump's most relentless defender. She was a battering ram he could aim at any institution. If there was any side of a controversy, she was there. If there was a scandal, she explained it and then explained it away. If Trump sneezed wrong, she'd blame it on the deep state contaminating the air and the Democratic hoax. And Trump loved it. He loved her fire, her willingness to alienate colleagues, voters, journalists, anyone, as long as she was protecting him. She was loud, loyal, and unbothered by collateral damage, Trump's perfect foot soldier. But that loyalty actually had a limit, and now we're reaching it. It collided with the scandal so toxic it defies spin. And it's a scandal that the people who were normally coded as on the right somewhat stoked themselves, and that was the Epstein files. The files that broke the alliance. These documents didn't just revive a case that everybody had interested in. They revived a nightmare, a decades-long web of power, wealth, manipulation, abuse, and silence, and a world where celebrities, politicians, financiers, and world leaders mingled with a trafficker whose evil was so grotesque it stains everyone who stood close to him. So when the files came back into the public conversation, Trump expected what he always expected. Total defense, no hesitation, no distance, absolute allegiance. But Marjorie Taylor Greene hesitated, not because she suddenly had grown some conscience, but because she realized this was the type of scandal that could end careers and not just bruise them. Trump wanted her to say, it's all lies. It's all political. They're coming after me because he's the leader of the movement. But Instead, she called for transparency. And to Donald Trump, that word transparency is an accusation. The man who lives off secrecy, branding, and image control, transparency sounds like a threat. So when Marjorie Taylor Greene publicly stated no one should be protected in Epstein files release, the message to Trump was unmistakable. Your name is not immune anymore. And from that moment forward, the trust shattered and the freeze out began. Trump withdrew publicly, strategically, and silently. He stopped acknowledging Marjorie Taylor Greene as a key ally. He stopped amplifying her statements. He distanced himself in that quiet, pushing way politicians reserve for the people they believe to have become liabilities. Marjorie Taylor Greene fought back the only way she knows how, with volume. But this time, it didn't land in the audience that she normally thought it would land. It landed with the liberals. It landed with the libertarians. It landed with the independents, who are often critical of Donald Trump. And it landed with people who are on the right, who want this Epstein stuff out. And the president did not like it. Because when Marjorie Taylor Greene fought back this time with volume, and it landed, and her usual theatrics couldn't mask the reality that she had miscalculated and she had forgotten the number one rule in the Trump world. Loyalty cannot be conditional. It must be absolute, even when it drags you into the fire, especially when it does that. And the scandal is unlike any other. It's not a matter of political ideology. It's not left versus right. It's not conservative versus progressive. It's power versus accountability. It's wealth versus justice. It's the elites versus truth. The Epstein case exposes something many Americans already were suspect of. There's a class of people, insulated, wealthy, influential, who believe the rules do not apply to them. Trump built his brand on pretending to fight that elite class. Marjorie Taylor Greene built her brand on shouting about it as well. But the irony now is painful. The moment the light turned toward their side of the room, the alliance disintegrated. Because the truth, when it's real, it actually can't be that partisan. It demands integrity. It demands more courage. And neither Trump nor Marjorie Taylor Greene built their political identities on either of those things. And the real reason the fallout matters is because we have to be honest. Political fallouts happen every single week because personalities clash, egos collide, leaders change favorites, like children picking teams for kickball. But this one reveals something deeper. The entire MAGA movement, the rallies, the slogans, the us versus them worldview was built on the illusion of unity. But the unity built on fear and performance collapses the moment accountability actually has to enter the room. Trump didn't actually abandon Marjorie Taylor Greene because of policy disagreement. He abandoned her because she acknowledged the existence of a truth that he wanted buried. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't distance herself because she wanted justice. She distanced herself because she feared the blowback. And in that mutual retreat, the whole movement revealed its weakest point. When the truth knocks, their loyalties fracture. When the light shines, alliances fade. When accountability rises, courage vanishes. And this is what this means for us going forward. This fallout is actually just a preview of what is going to come. If the Epstein file stuff continues to generate this much heat, and the headlines you're going to see more split, not just between Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, but across the entire political ecosystem. Every politician who stood shoulder to shoulder with Trump will be forced to choose. Defend him at all costs or defend themselves. Most will choose the latter, and Trump will see every one of them as traitors. This isn't a movement anymore. It's a collapsing star, bright, burning, consuming everything around it as it falls inward. The Epstein files didn't ignite this collapse. It only revealed the fault lines that were already there. They exposed the truth beyond the spectacle, a movement held together by held by not conviction, but mutual fear, not by shared ideas, but shared enemies, not by moral clarity, but a desire to be a part of something powerful, even if that power came from the darkest corners of American politics. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump were never bounded by principle. They were bounded by theatrics, attention, ambition, and attacking common enemies. So when the darkest scandal of their age resurfaced, when Epstein's files forced everyone to stop yelling long enough to confront actual evidence, the partnership cracked like glass and exposed the rift. And that crack, the crack can't heal because the truth has a way of splitting apart anything that wasn't built to withstand it. This is Jerome McClain, and I'm going to keep calling this stuff exactly like it is, because when the light is on and the volume is turned all the way up, it becomes very easy to see who is trying to hide in the dark. Be right back with more of the Jerome McClain Show. All right, guys, welcome back to the Jerome McClain Show. I'm about to wrap this up by doing the thing that I like to do the most. Let's talk about the history here and the loyalty trap that always comes with the rise and the ruin of a long list of people who have stood beside Donald Trump, because there's a pattern in this type of politics that is so sharp, it's so consistent, so brutally predictable that historians are going to study this era for decades. And the pattern is this: anyone who gets close to Donald Trump eventually becomes an enemy of Donald Trump. Not because they changed, but because they stood up for what they had stood up always. Because they stopped surrendering every inch of their identity. And to understand the fallout between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump, you can't just look at this moment. You have to look at the lineage, the hundreds of discarded, disillusioned, demolished loyalists who came before her. And her fall isn't surprising. It's mathematical. It's inevitable. It's a conclusion of a system built around one rule and one rule alone. Loyalty is owed to Donald Trump and Donald Trump alone. But loyalty is never returned. So let's take a tour through Congress, the cabinet, the generals, the intelligence agencies to see what I'm saying here. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the first casualty. She's just the newest. So let's go to a female that we all know here by the name of Liz Cheney. And the warning that I think Marjorie Taylor Greene ignored, because before Trump, Liz Cheney wasn't a fringe figure. She wasn't controversial. She wasn't a lightning rod. She was the daughter of a vice president, the heir of a towering conservative dynasty, architect of neoconservative foreign policy, defender of the Iraq War, backbone of the old Republic establishment, a rising star with deep national security credentials. In any other Republican era, she would have been leadership, speaker material. And then came Donald Trump. And even though, if you go look at the record, she voted with Donald Trump 93% of the time, it didn't matter. The moment she refused to disagree with him and not say what he believed, and she believed that the 2020 election was legitimate and that he was lying, she was excommunicated, cast out, destroyed politically, and the message is clear. Trump doesn't want allies. He wants disciples. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she should have known that it doesn't matter. You are going to go from being one day a pit bull to a pariah. So she steps in to this legacy, the polar opposite of Liz Cheney. Before Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't even a known political figure. She was a fringe influencer, a conspiracy evangelist, a political outsider, armed with a camera phone and a thirst for provocation. I remember her sitting outside of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's office saying she needs to come out and debate her and take off her diaper, yada, yada, yada. She didn't inherit power. She clawed her way into it by embracing Trumpism, louder, harder, and wilder than anyone else in the room. She wasn't just loyal, she was fantastically loyal. She defended him through every scandal. She burned bridges on his behalf. She made herself a national villain if it meant protecting him. But the Epstein files changed something. It changed everything. And the moment she said, "Let every name be released, no expectations," Trump saw that as a threat. Because in Trump's world, look, it doesn't run on transparency. It runs on deflection. It runs on whataboutisms. It runs on, oh, but the Democrats. And Marjorie Taylor Greene hesitated. She demanded what she had already demanded. And that hesitation alone got her tossed into the same wilderness as Liz Cheney. Different style, same end. Let's go back even further to Jeff Sessions, and the true father of Trumpism, along with Newt Gingrich and Chris Christie. Because before Trump, Sessions was not a nobody. He was a 4-term U.S. senator, one of the most conservative voices in the chamber, the architect of the modern immigration restriction movement, and a respected legal figure in Republican circles. He was literally the one who legitimized Trump when no one else would pay any attention to him. It's in Washington, and nobody in Washington would touch him. Trump, I would argue, owes his presidency, the first term especially, to Jeff Sessions more than almost anyone else. And yet, when Sessions followed the law, the actual written law, and recused himself from the Russia investigation, Trump destroyed him publicly, mocked him, humiliated him, crushed his Senate comeback. Because in Trump world, obeying the law becomes disloyalty. And it does not matter how long you spent, how many decades of your life you gave to the party. That means nothing to this version of Trump forwarders. And now let's enter Rex Tillerson, one of the most brilliant CEOs who walked into what he saw as a circus. Now, before Trump, Tillerson was a titan. He was a CEO of ExxonMobil, a negotiator with governments around the world, known for his discipline, his order, his long-term down-the-road planning. He had no political ambitions whatsoever. He was the type of man who would normally run an administration, not serving one. But Trump hired him anyway, and then tore him apart, but he refused to indulge impulsive decisions. Tillerson famously called Trump a moron. And for that, when Trump found out, Trump fired him via a tweet. Now, that wasn't a policy disagreement. It was resentment, because competence and actual success threatens chaos. Now enter John Bolton, the hawk we all remember, who expected a president. Now, before Donald Trump, John Bolton was a foreign policy legend on the right, former United Nations ambassador, the architect of the Bush-era national security strategy, hardline hawk with decades of experience, feared and respected in Washington. He entered the Trump White House thinking he was serving a conservative administration. What he found out was improvisation, inconsistency, and impulses guided by personal affinities instead of strategies. And so Trump fired him, and then in classic Trump fashion, publicly mocked him ever since then on things like his appearance. Now entered Bill Barr, loyal to the point of humiliation. Before Trump, Barr was the Republican legal establishment, Attorney General under George H.W. Bush, legal scholar, deep into institutional respect, long conservative track record. He defended Trump at every turn. He bent the law for him. He spun reports publicly to soften political fallout. But when Trump demanded that Barr declare the 2020 election fraudulent without evidence, Barr refused. And insanity that he should have not done, because he became instantly known as disloyal. Barr is now one of Trump's most frequent targets of resentment, precisely because he refused to lie. Now we have to go to Mike Pence, the most loyal man in America, because before Trump, Pence was a model conservative, former congressman, former governor of Indiana. evangelical favorite, former conservative talk show host, disciplined, predictable, dutiful. Trump's base adored Mike Pence. And Pence served Trump with absolute loyalty to scandals, through impeachment, through crisis, through humiliation. But Trump demanded Pence break the Constitution on January 6th, and Pence refused, simply doing what the founders wrote in the law he believed. Trump unleashed a mob. He had no mercy for Mike Pence. He had no gratitude for Mike Pence. He had no loyalty for Mike Pence. No loyalty in return. Now let's go to the military, and we have to talk about some of these military men, the generals, who stared right into this chaos. And this, I'm only wrapping this up so you can see how deep this pattern goes. Let's enter Mad Dog Mattis, James Mattis. Now, before Trump, he was a 4-star general. He led Marines in Iraq. He was what we called a warrior scholar. He was one of the most respected military minds of his generation. Trump adored him at first, and then he turned on him when Mattis defended allies, when Mattis defended stability, and when Mattis defended democratic norms around the world. Mattis resigned and later wrote that Trump was a danger to the Constitution. Trump's response: personal insults, schoolyard mockery. Then comes H.R. McMaster. Now, before Trump, McMaster is a 3-star general, counterinsurgency genius, Pulitzer Prize-winning military strategist, decorated combat veteran. He tried to bring structure to chaos. Trump resented it. McMaster was pushed out and later labeled soft, disloyal, and weak. Then we have John Kelly. Now, before Trump, John Kelly is a 4-star military general, head of the U.S. Southern Command, former Secretary of the Homeland Security, and man with deep institutional respect. He served as the Chief of Staff, trying desperately to impose discipline. Trump retaliated by insulting him, his intelligence, and even his deceased son. That moment alone will stain American political history forever. Now enter Mark Milley. Before Trump, he is a decorated general, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, trusted by presidents of both parties. When Milley opposed illegal orders or reckless military impulses, Trump turned against him, even suggesting that Milley deserved execution. Think about that. A former U.S. president, who is now the current U.S. president, was at the time, and maybe still now, implying a general is a traitor for telling the truth. Then we have Alexander Vindman. Before Trump, Lieutenant Colonel, Purple Heart recipient, National Security Council expert on Ukraine. His crime, he testified and told the truth. Trump's response was a smear. To smear him, attempt to run his career, and pressure the military to discipline him for what? Honesty. And what does all of this tell us? From Liz Cheney to Marjorie Greene, to Jeff Sessions, to John Kerry, to Bill Barr, to James Mattis, the story is the same. Trump demands loyalty but never will give it. Trump consumes allies but never protects them. Trump pushes his agenda and he punishes anybody who says anything against it. And he only rewards obedience until your obedience becomes useless. That is not ideology. That is not conservatism. That is not leadership. This is a political gravity where everyone orbits around and it decays the moment you stop circling the center. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is discovering the same reality that Liz Cheney discovered, that Jeff Sessions discovered, that Mike Pence discovered, and the 4-star generals discovered. No matter who you are, no matter what you sacrifice, no matter how hard you defend him, Trump will eventually demand something that you cannot give. And when you fail that test, he will turn on you as if you have never even existed. Now, my final word for this show is this. This is not a movement. It's a cycle. It's a purge, a ritual of devotion followed by destruction. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is just the latest name in a growing ledger of people who believe their loyalty would be valued only to learn in the Trump era, loyalty is a tool and betrayal is inevitable. Thank you for tuning in to the Jerome McClain Show, and I'm here to keep looking at this pattern until people finally recognize it is for what it is. Thank you. And I'll see you on the next episode. More content to come. We got a lot to get to. It's a very, very pressing week. Shot out of a cannon here. Right back from the cruise. And we got a lot of stuff coming. See you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Of course, if you want to support the show, you can do so by going to www.patreon.com and getting a membership for as little as $3 a month. Again, that's www.patreon.com/The Jerome McClain Show. The Jerome McClain Show is fully listener-supported, independent media that won't lead you to tribalism. Get a membership and support independent media at www.patreon.com/The Jerome McClain Show.